Once upon a time, in an African village called Ole, there lived a young man named Olumide. He was the only son of Iya Olu, the richest fabric seller in Ole. Having lost his father many years ago, Iya Olu practically raised Olumide all by herself. Olumide was one of the most handsome young men in the village and was desired by every young lady. However, there was something odd and mysterious about him that spread through the village like a restless wind. You see, Olumide had been married 6 times before, but he currently had no wife. No one knew exactly what happened to the 6 ladies he had married. Some villagers would say, Olumide is cursed, and any lady he marries runs away after a short time. Others suspected that his mother, Iya Olu, was evil, a witch who ate her daughters-in-law. Well, these were just rumors, as no one knew the truth about what really happened to Olumide's previous wives. And no one dared to question the son of the richest woman in the village either. All they knew was that he was currently single and looking to take a wife. One day, Abike was coming back from the stream with her friends, Bose and Bimpe, when they bumped into Olumide. Olumide was immediately struck by Abike's beauty and knew in that instant that she would be his next bride. He asked to have a private talk with her. Bose and Bimpe exchanged worried looks as they excused themselves to leave Abike and Olumide alone. Olumide told Abike how beautiful she looked and that he would love to pursue a serious relationship with her that could lead to marriage. Abike's heart swelled with excitement as she imagined being married to a man as handsome as Olumide. Later that evening, she met with Bose and Bimpe and excitedly told them about all that Olumide had discussed with her. He asked for my hand in marriage, Abike said joyfully. Bose and Bimpe exchanged a concerned stare. Then Bimpe spoke up. Be careful, Abike. You know what they said about Olumide? What? What did they say? Abike interrupted, her eyes narrowing. Why can't you girls just be happy for me? Oh, I see. You are both jealous that I will get married before you, she said angrily. Bose and Bimpe tried to explain what they meant and warned Abike, but she would not listen. She only got angrier, finally standing up and storming off, leaving her friends behind. Abike lived alone in her late father's hut in the village. She was an orphan. Her father died before she was born, and her mother passed away shortly after giving birth to her. Abike was raised by her grandmother, who lived in a neighboring village. After her grandmother sadly passed away 3 years ago, Abike had to return to Ole village. She had been through so much hardship from a young age. This marriage to Olumide finally could be her chance at happiness and security, or so she hoped. Over the next few days, Abike ignored her friends, Bose and Bimpe, as she busied herself preparing for her marriage to Olumide. A few days before the big event, one of Abike's distant relatives named Omawumi paid her a visit after hearing about her impending marriage to Olumide. Omawumi told Abike that she should ask her husband-to-be what really happened to his previous 6 wives before marrying him. That evening, at their usual meeting spot under the big mango tree in the village, Abike brought up the subject with Olumide about his 6 ex-wives, but he simply denied being married before. Do I look like someone that has been married before? Don't be ridiculous, Olumide scoffed. He reassured Abike of his love and warned her to stop listening to baseless village gossip. The next morning, Ifumi Abike stomped over to Omawumi's house. You wicked woman, so you want to ruin my happiness by telling lies about my husband-to-be? Oh, I see. It's because none of your daughters were lucky enough to marry a wealthy man like my Olumide. "You bitter soul," she shouted at the stunned older woman before whirling around and marching off without giving Omaome a chance to respond. A grand, lavish wedding ceremony was organized for Abike and Olumide, one of the biggest in the history of Ole. The entire village held their breath and desperately hoped that whatever misfortune had befallen Olumide's previous wives would somehow spare beautiful Abike. After their wedding, Abike was shocked to discover that she and her new husband will be living under the same roof as his mother. This didn't sit well with Abike at all, but she didn't seem to have much say in the matter. She could only hope that her mother-in-law would treat her like the daughter she never had. That night, as they went to bed, Abike had a terrifying dream. She saw herself in a forest, being chased by a big snake. As she awoke, she was shaking and drenched in sweat. She had never experienced such a vividly frightening nightmare before. She told her husband Olumide about the dream, but he simply brushed it aside, telling her not to read too much into it, as it was just a bad dream. After they had breakfast the next morning, Iya Olu dropped a bombshell that left Abike speechless. Olumide's mother announced that Abike would no longer be allowed to sleep in the same room as her husband. According to Iya Olu, they had consummated the marriage the previous night, so there was no need for them to continue sleeping in the same room. This was definitely not at all what Abike had envisioned for her marriage. Olumide just sat there silently as his mother dictated these rules about their marriage, not saying a word to object. And so Abike's belongings were moved into a small room at the back of the main house, away from her husband's quarters. Over the next few days, she became like a servant to both her mother-in-law and her husband. Abike thought about the warnings from Omaome and her friends Bose and Bimpe about marrying Olumide. Could this be what they were trying to tell her about? Little did she know that this was just the beginning of her suffering. Over the next few months, Abike was treated just like a slave in her own marriage. Iya Olu would go as far as beating her up if she failed to complete her task quickly enough. One day, mentally and emotionally drained Abike decided she had had enough abuse and neglect. She quietly gathered up some belongings and tried to leave the marriage, slipping out of the house and walking down the road that led back to the village. As Abike hurried down the path, she could feel someone walking closely behind her. When she turned around, she was shocked to see Iya Olu advancing towards her, pure rage burning in her eyes. Abike ran in terror, dashing off the path and into the surrounding bush and forest. Iya Olu chased closely behind her. The older woman finally caught up with the fleeing bride deep in the forest. "You think you can leave me and my son and live to tell the story?" Iya Olu sneered at the glowering young woman. Before Abike could respond, her mother-in-law began chanting strange incantations, her eyes glowing red. In that moment, Abike felt something heavy drop onto her. Looking down, she was horrified to see that she was transforming into a big snake. Her lower body had already turned into a long, thick serpent tail, while her upper part remained human. "Please, don't do this to me," Abike begged. But Iya Olu merely crackled wickedly, finishing her dark incantations before turning and leaving her daughter-in-law to her fate in the deep forest. The poor girl, now almost a complete snake, slithered around crying out for help. But she was in the middle of nowhere, with no one around for miles to hear her cries. Suddenly, Abike heard a rustling sound coming from the bushes behind her. As she turned, she saw a... Thanks for watching, guys. Kindly share your thoughts in the comment section below, subscribe, and watch out for the part 2.